live.
Good morning. Welcome to the Police 911 Fire Committee on July 5th, 2023. Present today are Councilman Hockett and Councilman Sprinkle, Appointed Supervisor, City Attorney Paul Jensen, Finance Officer Shannon Phillips, Public Works Director, Public Safety Commissioner Justin Day, Chief of Police Mark Dvorak, and the PSAP Administrator Andrea Potacek. Or 911. I like PSAP.
It's fair.
This morning, the itinerary looks to be the police department will go first, 911 and fire. Justin, Mark, I'll let you start off.
Okay, with the police department, traffic enforcement's going well. This morning I put together some numbers that cover from June 21st to this morning. There were 73 traffic stops during that time. 38 citations written out of those 73 traffic stops, 21 in the construction zone, 17 in the rest of the city. So pretty proud of the officers picking up the traffic enforcement very well over the last several weeks. Especially this last week, the amount of calls we had for other services was quite high at times. So there have been times where officers had very little chance to do any traffic enforcement at all throughout their shifts, or a lot of their shifts. So they did well in doing traffic enforcement when they had the opportunity to. So I'm proud of that for them for getting that done. Moving on to budget, the sheets that I passed out, you see at the top says 2023. You could actually change that to 2024. So the last column is what I'll be asking for budget. Also, the third column, 2023 budget, is put in there so you can compare. Not a whole lot of increases, some one decrease for sure as far as fuel. I calculated that for the fuel on the second page as instead of $4.67 a gallon, I calculated it at $3.75 a gallon. So that would go down, $7,500 approximately. Some other increases are for repairs and maintenance for the vehicles. Bumped that up from $17,500 to $19,000. Just as none of our vehicles are under bumper-to-bumper warranty anymore for powertrain. Or actually, bumper-to-bumper is no longer in effect. I think powertrain goes a little bit further. I can't recall exactly, but pretty much all expenses with repairs are not going to be covered with warranty. So there'll be an increase with that. All right. Radar calibrations, just a little bit more from 300 last year to 400 to be this year. Actually, last year's bill was for 2022 was close to right under 400. So I'm guessing this year it'll be 400, and in 2024 it'll probably be at least 400 as well. So that's where that came from. Annual memberships went up. This last year was only budgeted for 125, but we ended up paying 150, so I budgeted 150 again for next year. Uniforms, the same as far as the general uniforms. Body armor, we're going to need to purchase some body armor for at least 4 officers. I may be able to get that done this year within our budget, but I budgeted $4,000 for body armor, and they're about roughly $1,000 for one vest. So we're going to need at least 4 with new officers and whatnot. So other increases, let's see.
I see your ticket book prices went up from 100 to 500.
Well, I think I just
That's
kind of
okay.
put a guess last year, but yeah, we spent quite a bit already on citations and warning tickets and whatnot this year. So other increase would be FirstNet cell phones for 2 cell phones would be about $1,000, $959.76 a year. That'd be real important. I think that's almost, I would say that's a must to have cell phones available to the officers instead of them using their own cell phones for calling and photographing or whatever else they need to do with their cell phones. Other increase would be desktop computers for a move to the halfway house. Right now we have 4 total computers. If each officer has their own station, we'd need an increase for 6 computers as well. The $900 for the desktop computers per computer, I think I could find them probably quite a bit less than that. So I'll just do some more checking on that. So, any questions? This is still preliminary. I'll keep on working through this until budget retreat.
Mark, I'm just curious about first page under repairs and maintenance and current expenditures. You've got the animal clinic listed for repairs and maintenance. I'm curious what that is.
That's like vet bills.
Vet bills go to repairs and maintenance. Okay. I didn't.
Third party doing services for us.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It sounds funny. You know.
Well, it's repairing the dogs.
Yeah, it's like doing an oil change on your pet. All
I
right.
think we did use that. I haven't had to use any of that line item this year. Last year, I think I used it 2 or 3 times.
Sure.
Council, any questions, or is it just preliminary?
It looks like, what, a $7,000 increase over last year is what you're asking for? Roughly, I mean, round figures.
He doesn't have personal services account.
Yeah, that's,
No,
yeah,
I'm looking at
the top section.
the total budget costs, 2023 as opposed to 2024.
Yeah, but the top section, those numbers I just basically brought 2023 budget, just transferred to 2024. But those numbers will change as finance office calculates what the next year's salary will be approximate and retirement and whatnot, workman's comp. Those numbers will also change.
You'll see about a 10% increase on those between about 7% for healthcare. Actually, it'll be more than 10%. So it's 7% for healthcare and 7.5% for employee wages, which then workman's comp goes up approximately 7.5% as well. It's based off
So
of
10% above the 829, 4477, is that what
I
you're
can tell
talking?
you what it is.
No, that's close, round enough figures. Round them off, that's good.
Anything else, council? Justin, you have the updated personal services numbers for these guys?
I sent all that out. That's in the revenue email you sent me, is it not, Chandra? With the tabs underneath?
It wouldn't be revenue, the expenses, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, I sent everything out, so I'll double check.
Okay. Otherwise, looks really good. Andrea, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't have my personal services listed on the 2024 spreadsheet that I put out either. I must not have scrolled over far enough. I just saw the revenues. So I did not scroll far enough over in the tabs to get our personal services, but I'll make sure that's on there next time. So I guess insurance-wise, that's what our notaries come out of that line item. So I don't think I don't have any renewals next year, but I'm budgeting for 5 new, and they're $130 each. So that's where I came up with $650 for that. Also, I was gonna ask you, how often do we pay that SDPAA for our insurance? Is that once or twice a year?
Twice a year.
Okay, all right. So I'll get that on there too.
That's on the sheet, the same one. So your insurances, all of your personal services, your insurances, what you used in mileage last year for gallons of fuel, and any debt services, all of that was included in that spreadsheet. So there'll be quite a few things in that expense spreadsheet.
Oh, the one that we got, okay. So repairs and maintenance, we're looking at quite a bit of an increase in terms of budget. We budgeted $200 for this year. At this point, I am looking at least $1,420. Kind of talked with the jail about it, and they currently pay for our fire alarm and sprinkler inspection for the law enforcement center. So we're looking at splitting that between all 3 departments. So she's still working on getting quotes for 2024, so the number that I have here is for what they paid this year, which was, I think it was $4,900 for the fire alarm system and a little over $500 for sprinklers, and that includes the law enforcement center and the halfway house. So once I know for sure, she's getting numbers for next year, like I said, so I'll be able to update that. Managed IT, we're waiting on quotes for those as of right now. The HR and employment testing, I don't have an exact number yet. We still have 4 openings currently. And so I keep going back and forth in terms of whether we should be budgeting for 4 new employees or 6. I'm hoping that we can get most of them filled this year, but it's hard to tell. So I don't have a number there yet, but like in terms of pre-employment, UAs and stuff like that, I think they're $100 a piece per employee, I think is what they end up being. So I'll know for sure next time what we're looking at. Audiology and associates, same thing there. I left it at 120 for now. That's 4 new hires. They charge us $30 each for hearing tests, and that's at 4 new hires. Again, I'm still not sure as far as 4 or 6, what's gonna be a better idea. As far as our Golden West and Cybertech, we budgeted $2,000 for that at this point, where I think we're about halfway through the year and halfway through that budget. So, seems like we hit that right. So we'll probably request that same amount for that line. Language line, that one got us this year. It's a wonderful service that we have access to. It's not a service that we utilize on a regular basis, but with the snowstorms this year, that changed a lot. So for 2023, we budgeted $50 and we have spent almost $400. Over a 3-year average, we were like $147 for 3 years on average. So I don't know, I put 200 down for now. I'm hoping we don't have another winter like we did, but a little bit more is probably not a bad idea. Miscellaneous supplies, we're still looking at things that need to be replaced. Right now, we know that we need headsets and batteries for our headsets. We were looking at the replacement models. So far what we found is they're about $85 a piece. I think I don't think we have any new ones currently, but the ones that each dispatcher has their own, and those are still fairly new. The headset batteries, I just ordered some, and they were $42 a piece. We have 2 of them at each station. So I ordered to replace the current, half of the current ones, and we'll see how many they last quite a while, but it seems like they're all coming up on end of life. Uniforms, last year we bought uniforms for everybody, so everybody's pretty much got new stuff in fairly good condition still. We spent, it was about $30 a shirt, so if we kind of stick with the 4 new hires, it'd be about $360. We give everybody 3 new polos starting, and then usually when we replace 2. That's just what it ended up being last year, was about $30 a shirt, and that's for the shirt and then the logo embroidery too, total. Let's see, I haven't done anything in terms of fuel yet. It's not a big line for us. We usually just end up budgeting for a couple of trips a year. It's not big for us, so I can't imagine. It'll probably go down, like Mark said, with fuel costs being lower, so that'll probably go down for us. I'll skip ahead a little bit. The next line that I had was the travel, conference, and schooling, which is where we have our PowerPhone recertification, comes out of that line. I'll jump down to computer software where we have PowerPhone. The number that you see there, that $3,235.55, that's the number that they quoted for the continued education program that they offer. I think it's going to be a really good investment in our employees to get them a program like that. Like the PD officers, they have to do so many hours of continued education every year to maintain certification. There aren't any state requirements like that for us, but some of us haven't been to LET for training for 13 years. So, a lot of things have changed, and they offer, it's all online, and so they'd be able to do it at their own pace whenever they have the free time to be able to do those things. And there's all sorts of different stuff. There's things for handling suicidal caller situations, domestic violence situations, active shooter situations. It's just, I think it'll be a good opportunity to a good refresher for a lot of people. Things that we don't necessarily deal with on a regular basis, but want to be prepared for in the event that comes up. So that there is probably going to be our biggest increase request. If we don't do the whole package, I think it's $450 for the program that we would pay, and then we would pay $387 for recertifications for next year. Those things, recertifying would be included as part of the total package, as well as the software program that we use. That would all be included in that $3,000. So if we choose to continue doing it the same way that we are now, it would be less than $1,000 as opposed to the continued education package.
Andrea, this might be a stupid question, but what's Central Square?
Central Square is the company that does our mapping software, our Insight program for our mapping. And the numbers that I have down there for computer software, I have reached out to everyone, and these are the quotes that I was given for 2024. So those would stay. I'm still waiting to hear back from Omnigo. I sent them an email at the end of last week. I'll probably try to call somebody today since I haven't heard anything yet. I know with the holiday, some people didn't work Monday, some did, so I'll probably try to get with them this week and see where they're at on that. But for the most part, in terms of computer software, I mean, there was a slight increase, but not much except for, like I said, the Power Phone, because we would be changing the package that we get. Other than that, our equipment line, I'm still working on getting exact numbers for sure. We are not going to be in need of computers this year, which will be a big decrease for our budget. I think this year we had budgeted $8,000 for equipment upgrades. And everything is pretty well on a schedule now. So with the 5 to 7 year life expectancy on a computer for this next year, we should be able to look at upgrading some other equipment in the PSAP aside from just computers. So what I'm looking at is we upgraded the power supplies. We bought a new one for each workstation. And those are, you know, if we lose power, that's what keeps us up and going in between the time we lose power and the generator picks up. So obviously a necessity. What we don't have right now is backups in case we lose one of those backups. So that's what I'm looking at getting for 2024, is I would like to order 2 more UPSs just for our department, so that in the event that one of them does go down, we have a spare to swap it out. Those are about $725 a piece. We wouldn't end up paying for any install on that project because I just want them as backups. We're not installing anything now. I looked them up this morning and they were $725. I think when we bought the ones that we did at the end of last year, they were a little closer to $800. So they're right between that $700 and $800 range. And then usually when we buy computers, we replace the computer. We don't worry about replacing the monitor as long as it's still functioning. For the most part, their life expectancy seems to be a little bit longer than the equipment itself. We do have quite a few of them right now that are starting to get a little image burn, which can, you know, make it difficult when you're trying to look at one thing and the previous image is burned into the screen. So since we don't have the computers that need replacing, we'll probably look at replacing and updating some of the monitors. They're all pretty old. It's very rare that we replace a monitor when we replace computers. The ones that we're looking at replacing are 19-inch monitors currently, and we would like to replace 7 of them. I looked up that number again just this morning, and they were about $110 each. So we would have $770, which is where I came up with the preliminary number of $2220 for the power supplies and the monitors. Still a decrease for us in terms of equipment request. I think 7 is, we're kind of looking at each one of the stations, and I think those are the most needed, is just those 7. And then if we have to replace a computer in 25, we might do a computer and a monitor at that point, but some of them are just getting real old. Anytime we buy a new computer, we buy adapters because the monitors are so old, they don't just connect to the computer. We've had them for quite a while. I'm still working on putting some finishing touches on things like supplies and stuff like that. I didn't list a preliminary number there for now. I'll make sure that the next time we come in, the numbers that I've got here are a little more on point with where we're gonna be as far as request goes. Those are just the big things that I've been working on at this point, is getting our computer software quotes and our equipment line.
Questions? Looks good. Justin, Fire Department.
Just came in and did deals with what was fires with guys. So we're at.
Seven weeks to retreat. 7 weeks.
Can I bring up what Jeremy brings up as far as for the fire department?
Sure.
So last year in the fire department budget, again, it was a different committee, and Jeremy happened to sit on that committee, and it was discussed that their fire truck is reaching end of life, as far as
The ladder truck.
the ladder truck.
To
Yep,
be
it's several years old. And I shouldn't say end of life, it's just outdated, yes. So they're quite expensive, and what was discussed was doing an outlay, which we can do for up to 5 years. You guys can set aside so much money per year for this outlay in the general fund to use for this. So at this point in time, I know it's something that Jeremy would like to consider again, starting that outlay. Last year it got cut. I think you were on that committee
I
too,
was.
Ron. So it's definitely something, if you want me to build that in, we can build that in.
One of the things that needs to happen, two things didn't happen last year, which made that fall through pretty easy when it came to that time. You need a quote. We need 3 quotes on what a replacement truck would cost. And then also for each one of those, we need a trade-in value on the current one, so we know what we're putting away. Hard numbers, and that's one thing that we did ask from the fire chief, and I don't think that we ever got him last year.
Last year was pretty hard for him to even get a price on anything.
Sure. Because
So,
of,
I mean, maybe Darren could work on getting us figures now, but there's only so many companies that make those, so we may be limited to less than 3.
if it's one, at least we know what we're working with.
Yeah.
And there are fire trucks out on Sourcewell, HGAC, on a lot of our buy boards, our bidding companies that we are contracted with, they do have fire trucks out there. So even if you use that as a semi-base point,
Yeah.
because obviously, I mean, we're looking at 5 years. To get a quote today, not knowing what 5 years is going to be, but yes, I agree. At least that gives you a starting point to know how much to even begin to set aside, and then you deal with,
One of the
I'm
things.
sure it'll be cheaper in 5 years.
Shannon, do you have an idea of remember what we paid for that truck when we bought it?
I don't remember anymore. I'd have
I
to go
want to
back
say,
and look.
I want to say $500,000.
That's where I was leaning to, yeah.
And I think we were looking at somewhere between 750 and $1 million by the time it's
I
ready
think
to.
it will be
ready to
real
buy, if
close
I
to that
remember
now,
last year
for the same Triumph truck.
So what we did last time is we got a loan, and we have a lender who is very, very good to work with. In fact, we're paying off a loan with them in 2024. Actually, 2023 is when the truck is paid off, so the plow truck. And that's who we had the loan for on this. The consensus from the committee was, rather than paying interest, why don't we earn some interest on our money and put it into an outlay and pay for it? And I believe at that time, which was last year, so now we're a year later, Darren had said, yeah, we could make it another 5 years with this one.
Clarify one thing for me, Chandra, I'm not sure, and I think this might make a little difference on how the numbers add up. When you talk about an outlay for 5 years, does it need to be spent before the end of year 5, or do you have year 6 to spend it in?
No, your outlay, you put it away for 5 years and then you have to spend it. The only way you can go longer than that, which is what we did with the highway project, because it was state involved, you would have to pass another resolution stating because of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
We have to add on.
Otherwise, it's by the end of year 5 year. Okay.
I believe the statute specifically reads 60 months.
Yeah, I just, I hadn't looked at that for some time. I knew that you would know it off the top of your head without me pulling the book. But you're right, it is straight statutory. I just remember how it read.
Any other questions?
What did we put, last year, what did we have figured for
50.
kind of a side, and then we threw it out? You remember?
You started high, I think you started at 100, then it got cut down to, I think, 50, and then it got thrown out altogether.
That's what I was thinking. I couldn't remember for sure what.
And you don't have to do it the same each year either. So you can say year 1, you put away 50, year 2, you put away 200. The only thing is understand whatever you put into an outlay, you are essentially semi-tying the hands of future councils of this is guaranteed to be going in there. But you're also helping that future council.
I'm a novice to this whole deal, but, I would have before I have voted to spend $500,000 for another truck, or probably $600,000-$700,000 now. How much do we use that trip, Tony? Is it really needed? Other communities besides the
Yes.
winter, do they have ladder trucks? I got a lot of questions like that I would have to have answered if I was gonna move forward on yeah.
He'd be your expert.
How much of a need this is for the winter community? How often have we used this truck in the last 5
you look-
years?
If you look at it, we also used it in other communities. We used it at Burke. I believe we used it in Gregory. Those counties are also, we're kind of sitting in a spot, closest ladder truck before was Pier. And they're basically not gonna run down here for us. or
What is our
Gregory.
specific needs for a ladder truck, Ryan? What do you use it for? Not just when you went up there and you were
Put it this
buzzed-
way.
You were buzzed at one.
We got
change
apartment
made by a
complexes,
helicopter.
we got apartment complexes that are 2 stories.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Bedrooms are upstairs. We use it to get them out. Originally, the plan when we wanted to get that ladder truck original was to have a rescue basket on it, but that was another $150,000 or whatever, so we eliminated it, but we are able to take them down the ladder.
I believe there's pictures out there too, Joe, when the Pix Theater, one of the Pix Theater fires, don't remember which, it was used for that as well because of having to soak the roofs of those around it too.
I think one of the main ones, and that was before I retired off of there, was down at Burke when that building caught.
But they didn't have one, correct?
No,
So they just got one, a brand new one, and I believe it has the baskets on it.
yeah, I mean, they were so grateful that we were there with it, that only problem was they couldn't keep up with the supply of water. It was restricted getting towards the end. The tanks couldn't fill fast enough for the water we were using.
With the outlay, you don't have to set aside all the money for the purchase. It could be just for the down payment,
A yearly installment.
right? Understanding just whatever monies you don't set aside in the outlay will be money that you're borrowing against and paying interest on. That's one way of approaching it. I think the approach last year was to put away a 10-year outlay $50,000 a year is where they started to pay for hopefully a good portion of it. Those would be questions that I would encourage you to ask when Darren comes in or his representative. I have a dumb question now that's going to spawn off Councilman Hockett's. With us at the time having the only ladder truck in the area, do other departments donate to other departments?
No,
So the citizens of Winter basically take on the entire burden for the entire area.
there was a deal with the insurance, and there was, what do they call it? I can't say it right offhand, but it was an agreement
Mutual aid.
to transfer to, for us to be covered if we went to another town.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't remember what they call it, but
Did we, how did we acquire that to begin with, Ronnie? Did we have a grant? Was there a government grant
No.
out there to help get that? How did we,
we paid for it, the city.
City Winter,
Yep.
coughed up $500,000?
Yep.
We own 2 trucks down there right now, and the county owns the rest of them.
Right. The
Well,
city
we own 2
pumper and the
trucks,
ladder
then
truck's
there's
owned by the
another
city.
Pickup, emergency pickup type deal that we have helped with. So the fire department is its own little odd beast. There are county equipment, there are city equipment, and then the fire department also raises money on their own to pay for some of their smaller equipment. And they utilize what they make in donations, and then anything that gets billed out by insurance, that stays between them. That's the fire board's money that, and I don't fully understand that because it doesn't have anything to do with the city of Winter.
Shannon, I might be correct on this, but when we look at that ladder truck and the city pumper, by updating them like we did, it helped hold our insurance rates for every resident in Winter.
It
To a
it helps
different-
with your ISO rating. Yes.
Otherwise, we would have lost our rating. You lose your rating,
Your
your
insurance goes up,
homeowner
your
policies will
liability.
go up.
Yeah.
And that's what we were trying to keep down, and that's one of the reasons why we have the ladder truck. Even if you're too scared to climb it, Bill.
Are you saying that from your experience?
75 feet, don't bother me.
He
Okay.
was up there and got buzzed by a.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I do remember that
Fake
story.
Winter back a few years.
You recall how
That's
old that truck
interesting.
is?
I've been up on it several times.
You recall the age, how old that truck is? The ladder truck?
Is it 98 or 90?
It's in the 90s.
It is in the 90s.
Yeah, it would be in the late 90s probably, is what I'm thinking.
So in the 25-year range,
Yeah.
give or take.
So continuing down the discussion of ISO ratings, these communities around us then, that they don't have the ladder truck, so their rates go up. Is there any way for them to contribute
I don't know.
to the Winter Volunteer Fire Department, knowing that that truck will, it always ends up there?
Call for various.
It always ends up there, that they make a payment, that they could help their citizens by making a contribution to this, and that qualifies for a regional ISO rating?
I don't know that answer. I don't
I
know
think we
enough
should
about
look
the
at that.
ISO.
I do too.
And I'm not saying.
I don't know if we ever
Can I ask you-
collected anything from the city of Burke for
From their
the
insurance,
use
on
of
the
it.
use of it?
I don't know.
It's my understanding. No, when
Mutual aid.
when there's a fire call in the country, mutual aid, yeah. But in the country, when you guys respond to a fire in the country, you bill the homeowner or property owner's insurance company, correct?
It goes through, I believe, rural fire department.
Rural Fire Department.
It does.
So, but that goes all back,
That's the
the
whole
county.
different.
It goes to the
Yep.
Shrub County Rural Fire.
Even if there's one in town, it's still billed out via insurance and all of that, even if it's in town. But again, none of that comes back to us because it's a volunteer board. Ultimately, the city and the county have just agreed to share expenses.
A lot of that goes to the rural board, is actually spent to, say if they blew up a motor or something on one of the trucks, would help for that. And I think the grass rigs and that the county, I also believe that the rural board pitches in on.
Does that happen in the city limits? When there's a home fire in the city limits of winter?
The
To-
homeowner's
to-
insurance policy usually pays that amount.
For you guys to be
Yep.
there? I didn't know that.
But they
I've
don't do
heard-
any of the billing.
Yep.
The rural fire board does the billing,
Sure.
so they
Who gets
collect.
the proceeds of the billing, Tripp County or Winter City?
Rural fire board.
Yeah.
So then we buy this piece of equipment. We use it in various communities. We use it out in the country, we use it,
No.
We don't use it in
No.
the country, though.
City trucks do not go out in the country.
but it goes to Burke, it goes to Gregory, whatever.
That's a mutual aid.
And then they're billed for that, and it goes back to the county, so we've got all
No,
the
it
expense.
don't go back to the county,
None of the
Joe.
revenue.
It goes to the rural board.
The
It's a
rural
state
board
board.
It's different.
State.
Those revenues do not come back to the city of Winter, is that correct?
Well, I don't know on, when it comes to the city trucks, for mutual aid, if that comes back.
No, we get nothing. Not that I'm ever aware of. Ultimately, I believe it's my understanding that with the rural board, essentially it helps pay, like if something major happens, you can request help from them. Otherwise, it pays to bring in trainings for them, and a few other things. I believe it helps fund the grants that are out there right now, which
You're talking, basically it's a state agency
it is.
type of thing there. From the standpoint of the local fire department, there are really three entities involved in operating it. One is the city of Winter, because we provide a couple of trucks and we provide some of their other equipment and things like that. The county provides part of their equipment as well, and then the Tripp County Rural Fire Company is a state recognized entity that is the rural fire department itself. They're the ones that do the billing when they send out a bill. They came to my place and put out a Baylor fire. They sent my insurance company the bill.
And if you don't have, I mean, say, property owner
Right.
won't turn it in or whatever, the fire department's out.
They
Don't
know
get
it.
nothing.
They'll always send the bill,
Right.
but they will never come back and enforce it if you
Right.
don't pay it.
They won't,
Yeah.
I mean, that's what happened with the Rosebud deal.
I'm really interested in this ISO rating for the city of Winter.
That might be a,
And if it does benefit these other communities that we have a regional one as we pursue this, is there a way that we can help them lower by
Yeah.
improving their ISO ratings if they're vested into this? Also where, just looking at, then it's almost like they're a shareholder in this piece of property for the volunteer fire department. And does that help, Chloe? What's that?
When you look at the mutual aid,
Yeah, I was gonna say, if
Burke
Burke
does.
or Gregory does have a ladder now.
I think it
He just
does
said
the-
Burke does.
Gregory does.
Gregory for sure.
Gregory just got one. I don't know
Yeah.
what size it is,
I don't either.
and I don't know what year it is. I don't know if it's a used one.
I would
I know
bet.
Pier at one time, when they got ready to renew theirs or buy a new one, they give Fort Pier their old one for $1. Just so they'd have another one in case Pier needed two. Sure. They would have a backup. And that was kind of their agreement.
Which we do that as well through our fire department as we age something out.
You gotta remember
Typically,
too,
we give it over to
when Burke
another
had their
one.
disaster, we were mutual aid for them. If it happened here, we'd want the same results back. I mean, and they'd be more than happy to help us out too. I mean, it's not just basically winter. You gotta look at the other ones, and they're volunteers too.
And you see that anytime something big happens, everybody from the
Right.
surrounding area brings the house. If that call goes out, everybody should.
Is that 1054?
Pretty much, it's the same. Yeah, well, it is, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that one year, we just, no rain whatsoever. And anytime a storm rolled in, it did not carry water, it was just lightning. And you'd watch it from the west start, and people start calling. Something started on fire. So we paged this department, and then they'd end up with another fire. So we paged the department to the east to that one, because they were still busy, and then it was just leapfrog. Everybody was just jumping jurisdictions to the west while that storm moved through. 'Cause as soon as they got this one done, then that year was a mess. But yeah, that's basically what it was.
Is that the one that ended up
jurisdictional
in Valentine real bad? Down in the Gulf?
lines. That one was one of them, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And the Carter dump fire, that was, yeah. Things like that.
Well, this would be a huge appropriation. It deserves a lot more discussion.
You bet.
So, and facts, I appreciate that you got that insight, because,
Yeah, 30 years there.
yeah, we don't always have that. Andrea
That's
probably
what I
does from the radio side.
Because I believe
Some of it.
Okay. If we can get a quote, some kind of a price to see what we're dealing with, then this committee can talk about if they're gonna look to appropriate down payment, partial payment, complete payment, based on the numbers that are coming back from all over the city, we can start doing something. I think we should do something.
And the size might be of importance here too for the city of Winter. We might not need that 80-foot,
that's 75.
75-foot, we might be about.
You go anything less, Joe? It ain't worth having. Yep. I'm sorry, but courthouse, look at the courthouse. If we set up, I think we did twice, we set up once on the north side and once on the south side. We can reach good with the south side. North side, we're a little restricted, you kind of have to arch.
So Burke and Gregory, how big are their ladders?
I don't have a clue.
I'd be interested in knowing that,
Me too. That'd be a good.
to see what's all coming. If this is mutual aid, let's talk about a collaborative picture of the whole thing.
I know that's where Burke had looked at their infrastructure,
Yeah, their courthouse is as tall as ours.
yeah. And the water supplies, because they were hauling water.
Yeah, I'm not sure that they could handle all the suction of one of our pumper truck, could they?
And that's another thing, is the rating of how many gallons per minute your truck will pump. I think that's one of the reasons why the city pumper was so outdated, the old one, that this new one just,
Sucks
Yeah.
hard.
it was just like a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Well, ISO ratings in these other towns, collaborative picture of what's in the area, and mutual aid.
What size is that tank? Do you know? Ron? Do
What's
you know what
that?
size the tank is on it? On the what size is the tank on it?
She's
On the
shopping
ladder truck,
already.
Yeah.
the ladder trucks only holds about 500 gallons.
Oh,
They're not very large tanks because you're basically hooked to a main.
To the,
That's one of the reasons why
Fire
I
hydrant.
don't go to a structure fire
Yeah.
out in the country or anything.
HJC, that's the one out of Texas that Andrea got us hooked into. And we bought other things too, but
Shoppers.
she found it. Ultimate, I mean, you're looking 300 to 400,000 is what they have them listed at right now. So Granted, I don't know what all the bells and whistles are that it needs on there, but that's kind of what it's saying.
And are we gonna give ours away for $1?
Well, not only that, you gotta look at it too, when we got that ladder truck, we didn't have all the tanks for air packs, and we didn't have the hoses. All that stuff had to be purchased with that truck at that time. I mean, we had 5-inch hose
Yeah.
where we didn't have any. So we had to purchase enough to go 2 blocks with 5-inch line, which is very spendy. You had your air packs, masks, all that stuff, plus all your 2-inch, 3-inch hoses for extras. I mean, that truck, basically, the truck probably wasn't as bad as all the equipment we had to put on it. Where we could transfer maybe that equipment over.
I was gonna ask that question. Is it reusable?
Because the air packs and everything on that, they had to change that, I think just a year or 2 ago.
Yes,
Because of the system they were filling them with.
yes.
Those air packs and masks wouldn't work, so they had to replace all that. So all that stuff is up to date.
That's all been updated 2 years ago, yeah.
So I mean, you wouldn't have, maybe that would help. I mean, that'd be one thing to ask Darren. After being gone for, what, 5 years? You kind of lose a little track.
I hear discussions that need to be had to get us information, solid information.
Solid information.
I don't mind the investment. I just wondered if we could minimize with ISO ratings the exposure to the winter citizens. That's good to know about everything else. The air pack, the hoses. We need to know if they would move across. Let's put a plan together. Let's figure something out.
I believe that we replaced the ladder truck with the old LaFrance. The old LaFrance is what was there before. We didn't have a ladder truck. And the old LaFrance went, and we got the ladder truck. And I don't remember who got I think it went over east somewhere.
What's a LaFrance?
Huh?
What's the LaFrance?
That was basically a pumper truck, just like what the city pumper is, only it was a knuckle breaker. You learn real fast.
Yeah.
Elroy Croston was on the department, showed me how to run it. He says, whatever you do and you shift it into reverse, palm it. I didn't. Steel dash on them old truck, kind of hard on knuckles. You learn to do it once, you don't do it again. But that truck was, I want to say, in the 60s. And the old city pumper was 70s.
So if we replace that in the 90s, 30 years apiece, approximately 30, 25, if we bought this at the end of mid-90s, we're at that 30-year mark again, end of its time. So,
I mean, the equipment out, it's not the miles,
it's the hours.
that it runs.
Yep.
I mean, you might only have
And the conditions.
3,300 miles on a truck. You might have 10,000 or 15,000 hours on it.
The conditions that you put that equipment through in the wintertime as well
Yeah.
as summertime and all that, that all wears on whether it's the motors, the seals, everything.
And everything.
It's the same way with all emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
They're used differently than
Yep,
your normal
Everything's
cars
hydraulic.
are. Yeah.
that's right.
I look forward to that report, Mark. The difference between the hours and compared to miles on cars from last year versus this year. How many more miles they're putting on with those hours. I think you'd see something there with this unit. I like it.
low 40s right now, in a year and a half. Put on a third as much miles.
In a year. You're hiring bigger guys, aren't you? They like that pickup?
They do. They get it around better. And explore this, and it's not like the old ground race was a lot of them. Just franchise.
Interesting.
I will say we were very fortunate to have the department we have for fire department.
Yeah. I think you look
You
across
put a
the city
lot of
of
hours
Warren,
in that people don't realize.
Yeah.
from the fire department to the Tripp County Ambulance Department to the Winter PD to the
Yep.
Sheriff's Department. We're in an area that we're fortunate compared to other areas.
Yeah.
I think Andrew could attest to this.
And our PSAP.
Re-gauge any of our local departments compared to the other departments using.
Yeah, you get close to a repage time for our departments, and I start getting nervous that our equipment failed. We don't have to repage our people. As soon as we page, they're going.
Do you have that type of information, response times? I bet you do, you just have
Yeah.
never.
Yeah, it's not a report that I can run, but I could go through and find.
Interesting.
Andrew, did they ever get the systems working, the printout to the fire hall?
As far as I'm aware, it's working.
Okay. Because I know there was issues with it. The first truck's long gone by the time it ever printed anything. So then you had to call back and try to get directions. And I mean, a lot of us older guys were used to just give us a name, address. Don't give us this number because that's, you know, we're lost.
Yeah, nobody's told me it's not working.
Okay.
Write that down, Justin. Question.
Well, you would have heard if it wasn't.
I would hope so, but
I have complete faith in that statement right there, yes.
the ambulance will
I
call us
believe
if
it
they don't
is.
get their map, but as far as fire, I don't know.
What's that? Did you say something, Paul? Oh,
No, I'm sorry, I was thinking about 911.
okay.
I was just remembering the time that they got dispatched to my place. And this was early on in the 911 mapping systems. And let's just say that I live on 301st Avenue and it does not go all the way through to the highway. They came down off the highway on 301st Avenue and came into the neighbor's yard about 2 miles north of me, and that was the dead end. Had to turn around and go find out why they didn't get to my place. Now I know it works because they were out on a fire call at my place about 4 years ago. And
Sounds like your place is on fire quite a bit.
just my equipment.
Just your equipment.
Haven't burned any buildings down yet, so.
We're gonna update that.
Yeah.
Equipment.
Well, I got out of the business.
It's a quick way to solve that problem.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it.
It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to, unless there's something else, excuse council.
I did skip one of the
Heroes.
things that Justin put on my list here. We had an interview this week for one position, and I got to make a phone call today. We got another applicant the same day that we did that interview, so I got to get a hold of him and get something set up. So hopefully we can get some positions filled.
Good.
I'll be praying for you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
excellent.
You haven't called me yet.
Come have a chair. We'll show you how it works.
I'll do it. All right.